Okay, good morning everyone, and we are continuing here in our studies of Tehillim, and we're moving now to Tehillim Samich Gimel number 63. And Rabbi points out in his introduction to this Tehillim the following idea. Dovid HaMelech is once again on the run. He's being chased down by his beloved father-in-law Shaul HaMelech, who despises Dovid because he keeps taking away his might and his power. And he's in the Yehuda desert, Judean desert, and it's arid and it's parched and it's dried out over there. And Dovid is all by himself. He's been in this situation before, but once again it's happening. Shaul's army is surrounding him on all sides, and Dovid is thirsty. He has no nourishment. He's in the desert. He's being dried out. But as we're going to see in this Tehillim, Dovid doesn't worry about his nourishment. He doesn't worry about his malnutrition. He doesn't worry about the fact that there's no Evian water from the drink. He's not worried about any of this. The only thing that Dovid HaMelech is worried about and concerned about is that he should be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That in this very trying time, once again in his life, where it is difficult to be connected, Dovid HaMelech only asks for one thing, and that is he wants a very deep and inner connection to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And Rabbi writes over here, and we'll see more in the Psukim and the Mefarshim, but Dovid HaMelech's soul was ablaze with love for his Maker. And this flaming thirst could be quenched only by closeness to Hashem. That's all that he wants. He's thirsty, he's tired, he's hungry, he's worn out. And the only thing that is going to bring any bit of tranquility and peaceful and restfulness to Dovid HaMelech is if he's going to have a way that he'll become connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom. So let's take a look at the Psukim, and we'll see the beautiful words of the Mefarshim over here just to once again highlight the awesomeness of Dovid HaMelech, how in every single trying circumstance that there is in his life, there's only one focus that he has, and that focus is on the Rebbeinu Shalom. And he continues to teach us that if you keep focused on Hashem, even when there's many other things that are going on that are trying to push you in the opposite directions, you will be matzliach, you will succeed. What is the success going to be? We don't know exactly how the success is going to play itself out. But even if you're a Dovid HaMelech and you're in a forest all by yourself, and it's hot and it's arid and you're parched and you're thirsty, and it looks like failure and not success, but if you end up finding HaKadosh Baruch Hu in those situations and connecting deeply in with Hashem, then you are the happiest and the most satisfied of people that are around. So in the beginning he writes in the first pasuk, Mizmor leDavid b'Yosei b'Midbar. This is a psalm of Dovid HaMelech when he was in the Midbar Yehuda, when he was in the wilderness of Yehuda. And Rav Gamliel Rabinovich writes on these words the following idea. And he says like this, that if you look at Rashi, and Rashi will explain, Rashi explains there the following, that Mizmor zeh amru David HaMelech Hashem b'Yosef b'Midbar Yehuda b'Eish shebarach mipnei Shaul. Like we said, when David is running away from his father-in-law Shaul, he finds himself in the desert all by himself. V'ni b'Yosef b'Midbar, and when he was in the wilderness, in the desert, Rachayik mibnei Adam, and he was far away from anyone else. He's all by himself. Zacha lidveikus b'Hashem yizbarach. He merited to be close to Hashem. K'mo shenamar, like it says, Elokim, like it says in the verse that we have over here, Elokim, Eli, Ata, you are close to me, he says. Now, from these verses we learn a very major principle in the way that we're going to serve Hashem. Just like Dovid merited to be Dovid, to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He was in the midbar in the desert, and he was far away from anybody else. So too. You can't get truly close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You also have to leave the concrete jungle that you find yourself in amongst all the hustle and bustle of mankind and the society and people all around you, and go out into some kind of a midbar, some wilderness. If you are always around other people, it's very close to get close to Hashem. It's very difficult to get close to Hashem. Because people will get in your way. They come with their ideologies. They come with their stresses. They come with their issues. They come with their bad midas. They come with their lack of amunah. They come with their tightness, their complaints against HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the world in general. So how's that going to bring you closer to Hashem? They wear on your nerves. They wear down on your head. They can be bothersome when you're around people all the time. Kamosha Kasim, like it says, the Rivash, who was one of the greats of the previous generations, he writes in his tzava, in his will, if you want to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you must have his baidadus, you must sequester yourself by yourself in order to commune together with the Rebbeinu Shalom. So says Rav Gamliel Rabinovich over here that Dovid HaMelech is teaching us a valuable lesson. Yeah, it's true we have to be part of society and we have to have a family and we have to be in our positions, whatever it is, whether you're in business, whether you're in the office, whether you're in the house, wherever the person is going to be. And we have all those times during the day that a person has no choice. They got to be together with people. At the same time, Dovid HaMelech is teaching us there needs to be a time of his baidadus, which means that you are baided, you are by yourself. It's you and the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that's the only way that a person is going to be able to link in deeper into their relation with Hashem. We find this in the works already. The Ramchal writes this at length, how important it is. In Mesilas Yesharim, he speaks about his baidadus, that every single Jew has to have time, really every single day of their life, where they just go off by themselves and they think about HaKadosh Baruch Hu and they talk to Hashem and they examine their lives and they examine the connection they have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the world of Hasidus, so his baidadus is a very, very big part of that, where only if you learn how to talk privately to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, pour out your heart to Hashem, examine your ways, think about what you're doing, where you're heading, where you're going, only then will you be close to Hashem. And therefore, from the very beginning of this, again, you could look at it as tragic. Dovid HaMelech is forced to flee from his father-in-law. He's running into a wilderness that is dried out and parched. He has no one and nothing to his name. He doesn't even have a little flask of water to be able to drink over here. Life, once again, for the king of Israel is misery. And yet Dovid HaMelech doesn't complain. Not only does he not complain, Dovid HaMelech uses the opportunities of being by himself in order to bring himself closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom. He quotes over here at the end, "Umaspik loivdei Hashem," in the famous work of the son of the Rambam, "Maspik loivdei Hashem." And we've spoken about these words previously. Shemitam zeh yo'avis hakadoshim lo yetzayin. As we pointed out before, it's very unusual. All of the Avos HaKadoshim, our forefathers, Moshe Rabbeinu, Yosef and all of his brothers, they had a very lowly profession. They were shepherds. You're talking about the great Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. These are the greatest giants of spirituality in the world. They're like the kings of Ruchnius. And their job was nothing glorious. Their jobs were, I'm a shepherd. Moshe Rabbeinu was a shepherd. Dovid HaMelech was a shepherd. Yosef and all of his brothers, they shepherded the sheep. What kind of a job is that for a nice Jewish boy? For a kingly, princely person who lives with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What kind of a job? A doctor, lawyer, okay, we understand. Talmid Chacham, a Rosh Yeshiva, Mashkiach, we understand. But that you're going to be a shepherd, hanging out in the fields with the sheep? What kind of a glorious, amazing job is that? So the Maspik Loiver Hashem writes, there's a reason, and there's a very strong and a valuable reason why. Mibnei shedarcham shel royei tzoyin. Because the way of the shepherds is liyos b'midbar. They're always in the midbar, in the wilderness. Shum makayim hamesugo li'izbaydedus. That is a place where you can always be by yourself. Udveikus b'Hashem Yisbarach. And through being by yourself, you'll find ways to get closer to Hashem. V'al yidei she'yisem shel ha'avos b'midbar. And since that our avos, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Dovid, all of them were shepherds in the midbar. Zachu laval yidei deveikus b'Hashem Yisbarach. They were zeich, they merited to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, it behooves a person in the hustle and the bustle of life, where there's too much noise to stop and think about life, about my connection to Hashem, about where I'm holding in my mitzvahs, where's my observance, how am I doing in my midos and my character traits, what kind of a wife, what kind of a husband, what kind of a child, what kind of a friend, what kind of a sister am I? All these, there's too much noise in the world. And now we have the phones in our pockets and constant noise all the time. There's noise. There are people that they can't be home by themselves. They have to leave the television on in the house so that there's always noise, someone keeping them company. We have to learn how to appreciate the times of quiet. Because in the times of his voidedus, in the times of silence, where you can stop and you can think, and you can examine yourself and your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says Rav Gamliel Rabinovich, and he's quoting the words of the Avram ben Arambam, the son of the Rambam Avraham, that it's specifically in those times that a person is going to be able, if they use their time wisely and they think about it in the right way, they'll be able to achieve a real dveikus, a real closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, says Rav Hirsch on the next verse, Elokim, my God, or Elokim, God, Elai Ata, to you, you are to me. Ashachareka, by the early dawn I will seek you. Tzamalecha nafshi, my nefesh, my soul is longing, it thirsts for you. Kamlecha besari, how much my flesh, my own physicality, my nefesh, my soul is longing for you, and my flesh is also longing for you, my physicality. Be'eretz siyah v'ayef, in a barren land, v'ayef limayim, and I'm growing faint without any water. Now Dovid's it's bad shape over here. This is like he's on Skid Row in the wilderness over there with nowhere to go and nowhere to get water. He can't find a single stream. And yet, he's not talking about how thirsty I am, how parched I am, how I'm falling apart. No. My nefesh, my soul, and even my flesh, which should really want a large bottle of water, is only thirsty for you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says Rav Hirsch in such a beautiful way, what is this language of Shachareka, that I'm seeking you in the early dawn? And he says that I know that you're there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I know that you're with me in the midbar, in the wilderness. The problem is, it's Ashachareka, it is the early dawn. What's the early dawn? If it's pitch black in the middle of the night, and there's something that's in the vicinity that I want to find, it's pitch black middle, I can't find it. It's impossible to see. You can't see in the darkest moments of the night. However, when you get to the Shachar, when you get to the beginning of the day, which means that the darkness, the pitch black is beginning to leave, and the streams of light are beginning to come in. So even though that it's going to be hard to find the object that you are looking for, but if you know that it's right here, and a little bit of rays of light are starting to come in, your eyes will begin to adjust, and you'll be able to see and to locate and to find that object that you are searching and you are seeking for. Says Dovid HaMelech, I'm in the midbar, I'm by myself, I'm all alone. But I know that you're here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's dark, that's true. You're hidden, it's true. You're concealed. I don't see you everywhere that I look. Nevertheless, I know that you're here. And the rays of light of the daytime, which day is always indicative and significant and symbolizes the clarity that a person can see, those rays of light are already beginning. And therefore, I'm looking and I'm seeking and I'm searching for you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And since I'm no longer in the deepest middle of the night where it's pitch black, where I can't see a thing, it's now light is beginning to come in so I can start discerning what is around me. Therefore, I know that you are here and I'm going to find you, Hashem. Dovid HaMelech spends his life looking for the Ribbono Shel Olam. Now, I don't know if there was anybody else in this generation that found HaKadosh Baruch Hu as much as him. Nevertheless, Dovid never stopped searching for deeper levels and connections to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is the lesson that he teaches over and over and over and over again. No matter where you hit in your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as strong as you think that it is, as close as you think that you are, there's always more room for a person to go deeper into the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and get closer and closer to Hashem. And therefore David is saying, I'm once again in a situation where I don't see everything clearly, but I'm not going to fold up and just walk around aimlessly in the dark over here. It's already the shachar, already the daybreak has begun. The little rays of light are there. And I know that you are here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I am going to search for you. And I know that your nearness is close. And I want to perceive, even in the dark times that I'm in right now, I'm looking for you and I'm searching for you and I'm going to find you. And therefore, tzam lecha nafshi, my nefesh is thirsting for you. That even though that my soul is in the midst of this arid barrenness, that means there's nothing here. I'm faint and I'm thirst. Nevertheless, what's my real thirst? My real thirst is for you, Hashem. Even my flesh, my body, my goof, which is exhausted and drained and parched, and I'm dehydrated. Even that which you would think all I'm thinking about is a good bottle of water. Even there, says Dovid HaMelech, I only want to get close to you because I know that if I find you, if I get close to you, then all of my distress and all of my grief and all of my angst and everything that I'm going through, I know that it will end once that I find you again in my life. You're here. You are a part of my life. I feel quite distant right now because of the situation that I'm in. And therefore I'm going to look and look and look to seek you out and to find you, says Dovid HaMelech. Says the Malbim, on this pasuk over here, the Malbim writes a beautiful idea. And he says, Elai ata shacharecha, you are appearing to me, or I'm searching for you, I guess we should say it. Rak oischa ashacha ve'edrosh, you are the only one that I am seeking and that I am looking for. Tzoma, I'm thirsty. Shetzoma lecha nafshi, my nefesh is what is thirsting for you. Ken kama v'toyev lecha besari, shegam al-choyme, even my physicality, mis'ave el Hashem, has a strong desire for Hashem. Most people in this situation, they'd be sitting by the end of the freeway and they would be wearing filthy clothes and they're kicked out or evicted from their homes and they're starving and they have a sign that says, hungry, anything will help. God bless. And they're asking for food, they're asking for money, they're asking for something that is going to be able to sustain them physically. Dovid HaMelech says, I'm a hobo. I'm walking around in the midbar over here. I'm running away from my father-in-law once again, surrounded by an army. I've got nothing in the world going for me. One thing I do have, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's you. And therefore, I'm thirsting spiritually and even physically. My goof, even my body wants to get close to you. Be'eretz siva ayef bli mayim. I'm in a place where that's dried out and there's no water. Hagam she'eretz siya. Even though that I'm in this arid, dried out place, Shabasa mis'avelamayim, where flesh, a human being normally has a desire for water. Va'nefesh tzamalamayim, even the nefesh, even the soul that wants to live, also would like a good glass of water. Va'ani eini tzamalamayim, but I myself, says Dovid, I'm not thirsty for water. Rak lecha ani tzama, I am thirsty for you, Hashem. Tzam v'nafshi shekeika, and my nefesh, my soul is shekeika, it's yearning, it's thirsting for you, Ribono Shel Olam. Says David HaMelech, it looks bad, and it looks like I have nothing, and it looks like I have been turned away by you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but I know that that's not true. It's already, like Rav Hirsch says, the beginning of the daylight hours are coming. And since at the beginning of the daylight hours are coming, I can already begin to see. And therefore I have one thirst, one thing that I'm yearning for. And that is you, Ribono Shel Olam. And this is what Dovid is teaching us, that when a person finds themselves in difficult situations, and they find themselves in places in life where there is darkness, and there is hunger, and there is distance between them and the Ribono Shel Olam, if only we will thirst for Hashem, if only we will transcend the difficulties that we find ourselves in, and recognize that a much healthier approach to everything is to try to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu and connect to Him. So then, I will not be thirsty for water or for the things of this world. I'm only thirsty for you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm shoykek, I'm just like yearning, a deep, deep sense of yearning for you. Says Rashi, Avakesh ve'edrosh lecha, like we're saying, I request, and I am searching, I'm looking for you. I have a strong desire, a taiva, a desire, to come to you. I want to come to your house of prayer. As we'll see in the up and coming psukim, my desire is to make it to the Mishkan, says David HaMelech. I want to be in the tabernacle where I can pour out my heart and daven to you in the right way. Lashon ta'ava, yeah, this is a language of taiva, of desire. The spiritual, that's what it says. The Rabbi Yoina writes in Shai Tshuva, taivas tzadikim, the desires of tzadikim is to the Ribono Shel Olam. That's where their taiva, they don't have a taiva for steak, they don't have a taiva for a good schnapps, they don't have a taiva for a good pillow that they can sleep in and have a good night's sleep. That's not the taiva, that's not what they desire. Their desire, like when the food comes out on the table, Shabbos, they start serving desserts, and there's chocolate, and there's candy, and there's ice cream, and there's cake. People's eyes start popping open like they never saw anything before in their life. And they're looking, okay, just a little taste of this, and a little taste of this, and a little taste of this. And the next thing you know, they're complaining, oh, I ate so much. That's taiva. That's taiva for this world. Dovid says, my taiva is way beyond that. My taiva is for the world of ruchnius. My taiva, my strongest desire in life is to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And whatever I could find in my life, in the world, in that which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving me, that's going to bring me closer to Hashem, that is what I am looking to accomplish. Next verse, Kain ba'kodesh chazisicha lirois uzecha chveidecha, says Dovid HaMelech, I perceived you in the sanctuary. Again, in his day it was the Mishkan, the tabernacle, to see your invincible power and your glory. And the next verse, they go together a little bit. Ki toiv chazdecha, your kindness is better mechayim, better than life. The kindness of Hashem is better than life itself. We'll have to see what that means. Svasa yishabchuncha, my lips are going to praise you. Let's see Rav Hirsch over, and then we'll see the other Meforshim as well. And he says over here that the lashon of chayza, of seeing, doesn't mean like seeing like the physical seeing that a person has. It's a spiritual perception where you behold something with your heart, you see it in a much deeper way, instead of seeing something with the eye. And then it says, lirois, to see, that's already the physical beholding, the seeing that a person has. And therefore he says like this, in the midst of isolation, my spirit perceives you. That's what Dovid HaMelech is saying. We have to keep this in mind. Everybody goes through challenging times and difficulties, and there's suffering, and there's yisurim, and there's hardships. Everybody does. And it's specifically at those times that we start asking, where's the Rebbeinu Shalom? Where are you, Hashem? Says Dovid, you know what I do during those times? I'm able to perceive you, my nefesh, my soul, my spirit is able to perceive you in ways during this time that it can't elsewise. I become aware of your nearness, which recompenses me for all I have lost, and which gives me blissful gratification to both my body and my soul. When a person is close to the Rebbeinu Shalom, it is comforting spiritually, and it is comforting physically as well. Because when you know that you are being drawn near to Hashem, when you know that you are in His loving embrace, when you know that you have located Him in the darkest of nights, so then certainly on the inside you are filled with warmth and love and comfort. But even the physical lackings that a person has, they will feel themselves closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And therefore he says, I've come to see you in the sanctuary. This is where I want to find myself to be. Dovid is trying to get to that place called the Mishkan. But as we learned previously, when Dovid HaMelech says the words of Acha Shoalti Meis Hashem Oisa Vakesh Shifti Beveis Hashem, to dwell in the house of the Lord, to dwell in the house of Hashem, he doesn't mean only to be in the Mishkan. He doesn't mean only to be in the Beis HaMikdash, only to be in a house of study, in a yeshiva. He means that wherever I will go in my life, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I should live such an upstanding spiritual life that wherever I am, I can perceive myself to be in the Beis Hashem, in the house of Hashem. And here he is once again. He's in the perilous midbar. He's all by himself. He's starving. He's thirsty. He's got enemies chasing him down, surrounded on all sides. And Dovid says, where am I? I'm in the Beis Hashem. I'm in the house of the Rebbeinu Shalom, because the whole world belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if I will connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there really is not a difference between the connection of the sanctuary in the Beis HaMikdash and the sanctuary that I find myself in over here in this midbar. I mean, yes, of course, the Beis HaMikdash and the Mishkan was the place where the Shekhinah was dwelling in a very pronounced manner. Nevertheless, in my own personal life, I could find HaKadosh Baruch Hu wherever I am. And that's the goal, and that's what Dovid is talking about over here. And he says, I've come to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not only now when I lost everything, and therefore since I have nothing, what else do I have but Hashem? Now you might look at it as a bad thing, meaning as a weakness. If I'm so down and out, and I have nothing going for me anyway, so then what's the natural thing? You turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now that itself is already an accomplishment, because many people, when they are down and out, and they are falling, and they are failing, and they are frustrated, they kick HaKadosh Baruch Hu out of the way. I just spoke to somebody recently, unfortunately, who's been through very, very difficult times, and he's angry with the Rebbeinu Shalom. He's angry with Hashem, so he pushed HaKadosh Baruch Hu away for the meantime. He'll come back already, Be'ez Hashem. He'll put himself back in. This is a pattern to a certain extent. Nevertheless, says Dovid HaMelech, it's not a weakness that I'm standing here all by myself and therefore I have nothing else but to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because I remember that not so long ago, when I was able to move freely amongst the country, and I was by the Mishkan, and I saw the Aron Hashem, where the luchais, the tablets were, which is the spiritual symbol of all of the Torah. And the Torah itself is the real inner connection that a person can have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, I'm very, very well aware of the spiritual life that comes from the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is handed over by the law of the Torah, which has girded me with victorious majesty. What makes me Dovid HaMelech? What makes me Dovid HaMelech is that I am a deeply connected Jew to you. But how do I get connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Through the sanctuary of Hashem, and the sanctuary is the Mishkan in the days of Dovid HaMelech, and at the center of the Mishkan is the Aron, is the Ark, and in the Ark itself is the Luchais, are the tablets, which are the 10 Commandments, which includes all of the Torah. So Dovid HaMelech is saying that my strength and my power and my might and my deeper connection to you is only from one place. That's really Torah. And therefore he writes the following, that when I find myself, and he says, even when everything was going well for me, my lips never ceased to utter the truth, that Hashem's mercy is far more precious than life itself. Even when I had so much good and my life was great, I recognize that your chesed HaKadosh Baruch Hu, nothing is better than that. And it's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chesed that gives life its true and meaningful value. So what does this mean over here? And that's really what we have to examine in the other mefarshim. But what does it mean that chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is better than life itself? And on that, Dovid HaMelech continues to praise Hashem in the good times and in the not so good times. Dovid HaMelech doesn't stop letting the words of praise escape his lips. So let's see the Malbim over here for some clarity. Ki toiv chazdecha mechaim. Your kindness is greater than life itself. Shechazdecha b'matanas HaChaim nivdo mikol chesed sheyaseh zulasecha. The chesed that you give HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that you give a person in this world, is greater than any chesed that anybody else could possibly do for me or for you, for that matter, meaning for another person. Shekol chesed shenasig mizulasenu, any chesed that we receive from somebody else, eina chesed toy mitzad atzma, the chesed is not really good in and of itself. Rak mitzad to'elesh sa'asag nimenu, it's only because of the benefit that we're going to receive because of the chesed that somebody did for us. L'mashal, for example, melech basavedam, if you have a king of flesh and blood, she also chesed l'chayiv misa v'anicha b'chayim. You have a guy that comes before the king, and he rebelled against the king. And in that country, which would be the normal thing, a person who rebels against the king, he deserves the death penalty, to be hanged and be finished. That's it. You don't rebel against the king. But he finds favor in the eyes of this king for some reason. And the king says, even though you rebelled against me, even you did a terrible, terrible crime in our kingdom, I'm going to let you live. That's a chesed. That's a tremendous chesed. However, atoiv, shaloya chesed hu HaChaim shenosan loi, but the goodness of the chesed, hatoiv shal chesed hu HaChaim, the goodness of the chesed is the life that the king gave to him. Aval etzlecha chesed bi'atzmai, meaning, if you would not have given me life, says the Malbim, so then whatever chesed you do for me, it's not good. What if I just said, I forgive you, and then I get killed anyway? So that's not a chesed. It's only because there was a toelis, there was a benefit that I received from your chesed, that's why it's good. So if a person does a chesed, like in this case, the king does a chesed for this person, he allows him to live, therefore it's good. But if he wouldn't allow him to live, then it wouldn't be good. But by you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaChesed bi'atzmo toiv, the chesed itself is good. Yoisem and HaChaim, even more than life itself. Ki HaChaim einam tachlis la'atzmo. Life has no real purpose in and of itself. Rak she'em soyim sha'al yodam sivsai yash b'chenchu. Rather, the purpose of life is that I should be alive, that my lips should be able to praise you. Because without life, I would not be able to praise you with my When the soul is not in the body, it doesn't have lips, mouth. V'safa l'shevach Hashem, doesn't have mouth and lips to be able to praise Hashem. V'rak seichel maskel, it's just seichel, it's just ruchnius. V'im kein. Acha sha'ok ikar tachlis HaChaim v'toivehu mash yochel ha'odis l'Hashem. The greatest purpose of life is to be able to praise the Ribbono Shel Olam. Ala chesed shenasan lanu HaChaim, on the chesed that you've given us, you gave us life. So once we have life, and that's chesed, we can now praise you. Chesed is the purpose of all of life. But it's even greater than life. Life is only a means to bring you to the goal that you want, which is to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Through the chesed of life that you've given me, I can praise you, Hashem. And this itself is ultimately the purpose of life. Says the Malbim, why are we here? Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in this world? Is life the purpose of why we're here? Being alive is not the purpose of life. Being alive and using your life for the right things, that is the purpose of life. And the chesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, He gives us life in order that we have an opportunity to do the right things with our lives. What is the right thing and the purpose of our lives? Praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank Hashem. Acknowledge all the kindness that He has done. See the goodness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts into this world. Be a person of extraordinary gratitude. Even though you're a Dovid HaMelech, you're in the darkest chambers of your existence. You're in the arid, dry land. Your mom is starving and thirsty to death, and you've got enemies crawling all around you. But you're alive. As long as a person is alive, they have a chance to be haida, to admit and give gratitude to Hashem. We know that when Rabbi Victor Miller Zatzal was at the end of his days, the last time that he entered into the hospital, and that would be his final demise in the hospital itself, they found Rabbi Victor Miller Zatzal, who lived a life of gratitude. What was he busy doing when he wasn't learning? When his mind was sharp and he got into the hospital, his mind was still sharp as a tack. He was learning as much as he could because he said, I got to prepare myself for the final exam that's going to be when I leave this world. But the rest of the time when he wasn't learning, all that he was doing was thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for everything that he had. He thanked Hashem for his children. He thanked Hashem for his grandchildren. He went in details, each and every one in their lives. He thanked the Ribbono Shel Olam for his health for all of these years. He thanked for all of his accomplishments. You know, Rabbi Victor Miller, until I think he was 60 years old, never wrote a single sefer. I think it was until he was 60. And the last 30 years of his life, he was busy writing and teaching and being mashpia, and his name started becoming famous. And ad kedei kach, so much so that anybody knows when you go to shul today, in every shul across the world, there's what's called the Torah Savigdei, these little pamphlets of Rabbi Victor Miller's Torah and his insights and his hashkaf, his outlook on what the world is really all about, how to infuse your life with Torah values and principles. And even after his death, his words are traveling even farther across the globe, as relevant as they were when he said them 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago to sometimes very small audiences. My wife said she went when she was a student in New York. She used to go sometimes to the famous Thursday night shir of Rabbi Victor Miller Zatzal, which if you listen to the tapes and you hear about the shir, you think it was probably a massive shir. She says she went there many times. It was her and the Rebbitzin Miller, maybe another one of the few ladies, and a few men sitting in the men's section. And Rabbi Victor Miller was giving over all the gusto and all the conviction. He was giving over the words to these handful of people that were there. And now, decades later, his words are traveling across the globe of Klal Yisrael, and there's almost, I wouldn't say not a single, but there's so many Jews that have been impacted by his words, and they're living their lives differently as a result. And what was his whole life? Thank you, Hashem. Thank you for all of the opportunities that you gave me to live, to learn, to teach, to understand, to raise a family, to raise children, to have grandchildren and great-grandchildren that are going in your ways, to see things clearly, to understand what you want from me. And Dovid HaMelech says over here, it's about life? Is that why I'm here? Just to live it up? Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you shall die? Chalila v'chas. That's not why we're here in this world. We're here in this world to recognize you, Ribono Shel Olam. We're here to recognize all the chesed that you do and praise you for the chesed, for your kindness. Praise you for the health. Praise you for the parnasa. Praise you for my family. Praise you for the shul. Praise you for the Torah. Praise you for tefillah. Praise you for the ability to die. Praise you for everything. And a person that lives that way, you could be in the wilderness all by yourself, defending yourself from your treacherous father-in-law who's out to get you, surrounded by an army with nowhere to go, and all you're thinking about is, thank you, Hashem, for everything that you've done for me. That's a big madrega, that's a very lofty level that a person is going to be on. But when a person lives like that, then they have achieved the tachlis, they've achieved the purpose of life, as the Malbim is saying. Says the Metzudas Dovid on these words, and that is Ki toiv chasdecha mechaim. Your chesed, your kindness is greater than life itself. Rotza loymar, what does Dovid HaMelech mean to say? Ki kol toivas chasdecha minesinas HaChaim. All of the chesed that you give to us, or you give to me in my life, hu leman yeshabchuncha svasai ba'oidi. It's in order that you've given me the opportunities to praise you while my lips are still together with me. Kilule zois, if it wouldn't be for this, meaning if it wouldn't be that I have an opportunity to come and praise you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lama lichaim, why am I even alive? Very strong statement over here from the Metzudas Dovid. Dovid HaMelech is teaching us, you know why you're alive? You are here to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if you're a person that is disgruntled with Hashem, and you complain against Hashem, and you have your tinus, your complaints against him for everything that he's done or has not done, and you're bothered and you're incensed and you're in a bad mood, walking around all the time in a bad mood, why me, why me, why me? So then, why is a person alive? The reason that we're alive is to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If Dovid HaMelech, who should have been sitting on the throne in the palace, being lauded by his ministers and all of the nation of Klal Yisrael for his greatness, for his loftiness, for his kedusha, for his ingenious way in which he was running the nation, for his love and concern of Klal Yisrael, for his responsibility he took for every single Jew. Dovid HaMelech should have been sitting in the glorious place of the monarch of the Jewish people with tremendous praises and support. And yet Dovid HaMelech is all by himself in a wilderness with nobody around him except enemies. His body is thirsting, his soul is thirsting, he's faint from all of the trials and tribulations that he's in. And yet Dovid HaMelech, you don't find one single word of complaint, only one thing. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you for the goodness. Thank you for the chesed. Thank you for putting me all by myself so I don't have to worry about other people bothering me. I can commune and be davek and cling to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if a person doesn't do that, lama lo chayim, why would I even be alive? Why did Hashem bring me to this world? And for this I desire. That's why I want to be in the Migdash or the Mishkan, that I can praise you there. Imagine, says Dovid HaMelech, if I'm in the wilderness by myself and all I'm doing is praising you, imagine what it would be like if I'm in a Beis HaMikdash. Surrounded by Kohanim and Leviim and Kedusha and Karbonos and the Shechina. Imagine if I'll be there. If I'm praising you now over there, imagine what it's going to be like over there. And that he was allowed to ask for. That wasn't a complaint. That was saying, I'm doing such an amazing job of praising you here. Just imagine HaKadosh Baruch Hu for you if the purpose of life is to praise you. The purpose of life is to recognize all the good. The purpose of life is to see that the chesed that you do for me is greater than life itself. And I'm doing it over here when I'm forlorn in the wilderness. Imagine what it's going to be like on the Beis HaMikdash. Imagine, just imagine such a thing. And therefore he was asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, help me in that area of my life. Help me get to that place that's going to be so much better than where I am right now. And one more pasuk over here that we'll see. My soul will be satiated like fat and like marrow. And my mouth will praise your mighty acts with joyous lips. Says the Malbim on these words over here. Kenu abracha, this is the blessing. I'm not going to bless you on life itself, but on the kindness, because of all the chesed that you do for me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How could I not that which I lift up my mouth to daven, I'm not davening for a car, for a nice house, for a good thing in the physical world. All I'm going to do in my tefillah is praise you, Ribbono Shel Olam. I can thank you, and I will bless your name. That is why I'm here. Dovid was able to recognize in a place that was so dark and distant and looked like it was so bad. He was able to recognize, Ribbono Shel Olam, you know why I'm here? I'm here to praise you. Perhaps that's what it means when the Gemara tells us, Kashem shemevarchem ala toiv. Just like a person has an obligation to make a bracha when things are good, kach mevarchem ala ra, you have to make a bracha, baruch deina emes, on those things that are bad, because I recognize it's not really bad, Ribbono Shel Olam. It's really good, whatever you're doing for me, because everything is a chesed. If you've given me life and I'm here in this world, it's all chesed. And why am I here? I'm here to praise you, Hashem. I'm here to recognize you. I'm here to acknowledge you. I'm here to utilize my lips, the beautiful lips that you gave me, not for lip service, but rather for lip avodah, service of the lips, which is going to be my tefillah, which is going to be my praises of you, which is going to be gratitude to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a person is living like this, he's living in a different world. He's not defeated by the difficulties that he will go through. He's not put down by the things that are hurting him externally, internally. And then he turns it all around. He turns it back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But Hashem put me through something that was bad for me? The answer is no. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu would darken my life if it wasn't good for me? The answer is no. That means that whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu is putting me through, it's all l'toivasi. It's all for my benefit. If it's all for my benefit, then I have an obligation to say thank you, Hashem. I came back, last week on Thursday night was the chasana of Sasha Frankel and Yossi Hecht. I've spoken about them before. I believe the young man who ended up getting a tumor on his spine. He was the biggest macher. He was the biggest life of the party, running around, doing everything by every wedding, doing backflips and juggling acts and fire and this and that. He davened from the Omer. He would lead davening and sing, and he was geschmack, and he was everybody's best friend, till he got a tumor on his back, and it took away his ability to walk. Did he get down? It was not easy in the beginning, but he overcame this challenge in his life, and he saw it as an opportunity to get closer to Hashem in ways that he never could before. And at that chasana last week, with about 700 of his closest friends and family being there, we saw things that the eyes have never seen before. The simcha, the joy, the people dancing, the rebbeim, some of the most reserved rebbeim that you could imagine. They were overwhelmed. They were leaping out of their skins with smiles on their face for this young man who persevered through and was getting married in his wheelchair. And at one point, they began singing the song, dun, 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 thank you, Hashem, dun, 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 dun. And I tell you, this place, I thought the roof was going to lift off of this gigantic wedding hall. Because the joy that was in that room of a young chassan and a kala who have persevered through the challenges of life, and they saw in each other the good and the beauty and the chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they were just singing and dancing, thank you Hashem for all of the chesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does. They didn't see the bad, they saw the good. He didn't see the fact that he's in a wheelchair, he saw that through that he got closer to Hashem, and he's impacted the lives of thousands of people across the world as a result of it. So you have a choice. You can be stuck in a wilderness all by yourself, enemies around you, and you can be despondent, and you can be down in the dumps, and you can be angry. And maybe rightfully so, you can be angry with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Or you can say, if I'm alive, the purpose of my life is to see the good and thank Hashem. And if in fact I will do that, then like Dovid says over here, I'll just spend the days, my lips will just be praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I'll link into a devegas, to a closeness that I never knew I could accomplish before in my life. May we be zeicha be'ez Hashem as we continue to use the words of David HaMelech to bring us closer and closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom, that we begin to examine our lives and we begin seeing in the darkness, in the shachar, we begin to see the rays of light that are coming in so we can see good, and we can recognize the ikar tachlis HaChaim, the main purpose of my life is to be able not just to live, but to live in the right way. And living in the right way is a Jew that will recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu over and over and over again and say, thank you Hashem. Dance till the roof is going to come off your house because you are so grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for everything that He does for you. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Be'ez Hashem, next week will also be on Zoom just as last time. And we hope to finish Tehillim Samech Gimel and leave you to your Pesach cleaning after that. Be'ez Hashem, after Pesach is over, we're going to open up the live option once again and hope that people will start coming back in person little by little so we can once again garner the shir as a live shir. But whatever the result is going to be, I will still say thank you Hashem for giving us the opportunities to learn Tehillim, whether we are live or whether we are on Zoom. The ikar is that we're learning these beautiful, inspiring, uplifting words of David HaMelech. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week.
Thank you so much. Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov. All the best, everyone. All the best.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Shavua Tov.